Okay, so what is your name?
Teddy Feldman.
And where are we today?
City Team Oakland.
Okay.
722 Washington Street, Oakland, California.
And what goes on here?
So we're a one-year men's discipleship program, residential program where guys can come that are struggling with drugs and alcohol and have a safe place to be for an entire year. They get to work. They get to learn how to work a program that'll help keep them sober, hopefully. And we're also a soup kitchen. Plus, we are a it's like a transitional housing program for other people. It's called a Turning Point program. So it's a working man's program where guys get to come in and they're not in the actual program, but they're like, it's separate. So they get an opportunity to kind of live here and go to work and like find stable housing and like kind of have a case manager too. It's not quite as in depth as the other program, if that makes sense.
Would you say, is there like a main objective or goal with the program?
Absolutely. So it's to enable lasting solutions, to meet immediate problems and then to enable lasting solutions. So the whole point is to take pretty much a year off of life and learn how to live again. Because the issue is that people come in, and this is for the program itself, right? And they're struggling living life and coping with life without picking up a substance. You know, so the goal is to like teach them how to do that, you know, how to live without substances. So, we believe strongly that the problem is spiritual to a certain degree.
Well, you know, one thing is that, you know,
that aside from God, like it's really hard to come back from like it's a really hopeless condition. I myself went through the program too, and I can attest that I couldn't do it without like divine intervention. You know, although this place provided like a community and a safe place to be outside of God, like I don't believe that this place would have, you know, everything that it needed to like help keep me sober. That makes sense. Equip me with the right tools to keep me sober.
Okay, so what is it about spirituality you think that makes it such a strong tool in this case?
I think it's the humility that it produces. So the hardest part about this was accepting that I couldn't do it myself. I'm always being proud. Okay, what are you gonna do now? Having to rely on something you can't see and having faith in something you can't see just brings something else out in you. You know what I mean? And like allowing a being greater than yourself to like help you. You know, it's really humbling. Like, cause it's saying I don't have the answers. It's like killing your ego and like your pride. It's just like destroying those things and saying like I'm wrong. Life is so alluring, and like the wrong can feel so right, and like instant gratification can feel right. You know what I mean? But
yeah,
back then, I mean, I grew up in such a broken household where, you know, my parents, no offense to them, you know, I mean, they were struggling with having kids young, and they also were like had to struggle with addiction, right? But they didn't model this very well. You know, like loving people, treating people the way you want to be treated, you know. And it's amazing to see it modeled. Because I think us and ourselves, as humans, we're flawed. We're flawed because of our sin, because of our desires, like I said earlier. Just that desire for ourselves, you know what I mean? And the world is so alluring, and the instant gratification can be so
easy or
deceiving.
Yeah.
It's deceiving, you know what I mean? Because it's like you start doing something and you can have great intentions, or you can be escaping from it, whether it's drugs or anything, and then before you know it, years later, it's captivated your entire life, it's wrecked your family, you know what I mean? And you're like sitting there like, what happened?
What would you say are some of the biggest barriers or hardest parts to experiencing homelessness?
So I couch surfed, I think, kind of like you, for a long time. I relied on the generosity of other people. I've been around, I traveled with the carnival, you know. I think the hardest thing about homelessness is one, that it's so misunderstood. It's so stigmatized. And then two, it's lonely. It's lonely because you feel kind of ashamed. You know, you feel kind of like you're doing something wrong. And at least I did, you know, and I didn't have a community. So I didn't have people around me that, one, understood me, and two, supported me. You know, even with the traveling, like I don't think they understood like where I came from or like why I was where I was and how I got there. You know, although there were people there like willing to help, they just still didn't understand why. Which, once I got here, I kind of I started diving into the why, and that was big.
What would you say are some of the hardest parts about recovery?
Hardest parts about recovery?
Yeah.
think the humility is probably huge. It's admitting that you're powerless. You know, that's a big thing.
It's like stepping away from your ego, kind of.
Yeah. Recovery. I think admitting you need help, and then relapse prevention is probably the hardest thing. Coming to like understand, one, you got to work the program, you got to practice it, you got to practice all the AA, you know, and like learn a whole different. It's like there's a simple saying that they say you only got to change one thing in recovery, and that's everything, right? So it's like this like overwhelming, daunting task of like changing everything and never using again, but it's more just learning to live one day at a time, like learning to live like a moment at a time, learning to take a step back and really like check in with the higher power, or check in with somebody else and be honest. It's a challenge. I've seen so many people come in and go out, you know, like, and it hurts. I've had a couple friends that have died, you know, and it's crazy and it's terrible, but it really reinforces like how real this is and how hard it is.
What do you think is like the hardest part of like asking for help, or actually like finding services or any support?
I think that's it. The asking. I think that's the hardest part. This place was always here. This place was here before I was born. You know, I spent 27 years in active addiction. Not the whole time, but I mean 15. You know, from the time I was 12 years old till 27 when I really asked for help. And I think the hardest part was the asking. Like the one like really acknowledging that I needed the help. And that's just huge. You know, it changes everything, right? When you said, because the moment you actually ask for help, it's like you're really admitting like I have a problem. Yeah.
And anything else you want to add or talk about?
I guess if you know people, or if anybody like struggling with addiction, that they don't have to do it alone. Like if they're struggling honestly with almost anything, that almost the best remedy for it is community. There's community, and then also I know a lot of people aren't open to Christianity or even open to like God, but I recommend giving it a shot. Like I highly recommend, like, because there's so much more that I believe we as humans don't understand, that we need help with, you know. So I just encourage people to give it a shot. You know, whether it's recovery, whether it's God, you know, that some people find themselves in such terrible situations that almost anything's better, you know what I mean? And that they can come and give it a shot, whether it's recovery, whether it's God, and if they don't like it, they can always go back to where they were before. No harm, no foul.
Thank you so much.
Yeah. Thank you.